Brought to you by Penguin.
The Ride of a Lifetime. Lessons learned from 15 years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. By Robert Iger. Read for you by Robert Iger and Jim Frangione.
Prologue. In June 2016, I made my 40th trip to China in 18 years, my 11th in the past 6 months. I was there to oversee the final preparations before the opening of Shanghai Disneyland. I'd been CEO of the Walt Disney Company for 11 years at that point, and my plan was to open Shanghai and then retire. It had been a thrilling run, and the creation of this park was the biggest accomplishment of my career. It felt like the right time to move on, but life doesn't always go the way you expect it will. Things happen that you can't possibly anticipate. The fact that I'm still running the company as I write this is a testament to that. Much more profoundly, so are the events of that week in Shanghai. We were opening the park on Thursday, June 16th. That Monday, the first wave of VIPs was scheduled to arrive. Disney board members and key executives and their families, creative partners, investors, and Wall Street analysts. There was a huge international media contingent already there and more coming in. I'd been in Shanghai for 2 weeks and was running on adrenaline. Since my first location scouting trip to China in 1998, I was the only person who had been involved in the project from day one, and I couldn't wait to show it to the world. In the 61 years since Walt Disney built Disneyland in Anaheim, California, we'd opened parks in Orlando and Paris, and Tokyo and Hong Kong. Disney World in Orlando remains our largest, but Shanghai was of a different order than all the others. It was one of the biggest investments in the history of the company. Numbers don't really do the park justice, but here are a few to give some sense of its scope. Shanghai Disneyland cost about $6 billion to build. It is 963 acres, about 11 times the size of Disneyland. At various stages of its construction, as many as 14,000 workers lived on the property. We held casting calls in 6 cities in China to discover the thousands singers, dancers, and actors who perform in our stage and street shows. Over the 18 years it took to complete the park, I met with 3 presidents of China, 5 mayors of Shanghai, and more party secretaries than I can remember, one of whom was arrested for corruption and banished to northern China in the middle of our negotiations, setting the project back nearly 2 years. We had endless negotiations over land deals and partnership splits and management roles, and considered things as significant as the safety and comfort of Chinese workers and as tiny as whether we could cut a ribbon on opening day. The creation of the park was an education in geopolitics and a constant balancing act between the possibilities of global expansion and the perils of cultural imperialism. The overwhelming challenge, which I repeated to our team so often it became a mantra for everyone working on the project, was to create an experience that was authentically Disney and distinctly Chinese. In the early evening on Sunday, June 12th, I and the rest of my team in Shanghai received news of a mass shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, 15 miles from Disney World. We have more than 70,000 employees in Orlando, and we waited in horror for confirmation that some of them were at the club that night. Our head of security, Ron Iden, was with us in Shanghai, and he immediately began calling his network of security contacts in the States. It was 12 hours earlier, just before dawn in Orlando, when we first heard the news. Ron told me he'd have more information when I got up in the morning. My first event the next day was a presentation to investors over breakfast. Then I had to shoot a long interview with Robin Roberts of Good Morning America, which included touring the park and riding attractions with Robin and her crew. Then there was a meeting with Chinese officials about protocol for the opening ceremonies, a dinner with members of our board and senior executives, and finally, a rehearsal for the opening night concert that I...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?